To illustrate this point further, allow me to pose a question. Do Americans worship the flag? From an outside, unfamiliar perspective, it sure would appear so, whether it be in schools, football games, government events, military ceremonies, parades, graduations, flag funerals, color guard presentations, down to individuals flying the flag in their yard, decals on their cars or trucks, even tattoos. There's an awful lot of veneration going on. From removing your hat to crossing your heart in moments of silence, to special care when folding one to making sure they never touch the ground, etc., etc., etc. So why is this not considered worship of red, white, and blue cloth flags? Simply put, it's because the flag symbolizes the country it represents. Honoring a material symbol does not automatically equate to worship, especially in the latria sense. Furthermore, much like the Catechism says, the honor given passes beyond the object to the thing signified. And now some may say, but that's different. The idolatry claim has to do with religion. The flag analogy is just civil life. And while the content is indeed different, the logic is still the same. To say they are indeed different is to shift the burden of proof into your lap. If symbolic honor doesn't equal worship in civil life, you need to explain why the logic suddenly collapses in religion. As another for instance, think about a wedding ring. People kiss it, wear it constantly, sometimes even years after their spouse has passed away. They panic if it's lost and overall treat it as sacred to some level or other. Yet, no one observing this behavior thinks they're worshiping metal. The honor shown to the ring passes to the spouse it represents. Desecrating the ring dishonors the person. Catholic images work the same way. They're not rivals to God, but reminders of a real relationship. Worship is defined by intention and object, not by physical gestures. To borrow from a common analogy, think about how we treat a masterpiece in a world-renowned gallery. If you stand before a breathtaking painting and spend an hour praising the brushwork, the color, and the depth, does the artist get jealous? Does the painter shout from the wings, "Hey, stop looking at the canvas, you should be praising me"? Of course not. In fact, the more you admire the painting, the more you are genuinely praising the skill and genius of the artist who created it. This is exactly how Catholicism views the saints. A saint is a masterpiece of God's grace. When we honor Mary or the apostles, we aren't taking glory away from God. We are marveling at what God is capable of doing with a human soul that is fully surrendered to Him. We aren't splitting our worship between a creator and a creature. Rather, we are magnifying the creator by celebrating the incredible work he has done in his creatures. As Saint Jose Maria Escriva once put it, to honor a saint is to honor God, the King of Saints. Whether it's a saint's image, a relic, a crucifix, or even a physical posture in prayer, the deeper question is the same. Can matter point beyond itself without becoming a rival to God? Beneath the surface of this debate lies a deeper disagreement that rarely gets named. This is not ultimately a dispute about statues, it's a dispute about embodiment. Catholicism takes seriously the claim that human beings are embodied souls, and that God chose to reveal himself through matter, through water, bread, wine, touch, and ultimately, flesh. A faith built on the incarnation will naturally use material signs to point beyond themselves. So when Catholics use images, we are not clinging to the physical because we distrust the spiritual, we are honoring the physical because God himself chose to use it. At this point, the issue should be clear. The claim that Catholics worship idols does not survive careful definition, logical analysis, or even basic consistency. It rests almost entirely on appearances divorced from intention, symbolism divorced from meaning, and gestures divorced from context. Once those categories are clarified, the accusation collapses under its own weight. Catholicism does not deny the biblical prohibition against idolatry, it affirms it unequivocally. The Church does not blur the creator-to-creature distinction, it insists upon it. It does not teach that statues are divine, possess power in themselves, or rival God for worship. On the contrary, it repeatedly and explicitly condemns precisely those errors. The problem then is not that Catholicism secretly teaches idolatry, but that many critics are arguing against a version of Catholicism that simply does not exist. At a deeper level, this controversy reveals something more fundamental than a disagreement over statues. It exposes a failure to distinguish between worship and honor, between absolute and relative acts, between symbols and the realities they signify. These distinctions are not uniquely Catholic inventions. They are woven into ordinary human reasoning. We already use them instinctively in marriage, in civil life, in how we treat books, flags, graves, and photographs. To reject them only when Catholic practice is under discussion is not a principled objection, but rather selective. And that selectivity raises an uncomfortable question. If the popular objections to Catholicism unravel this easily once terms are defined and logic is applied, what else might rest on similar misunderstandings? What other claims have been accepted not because they are true, but because they are familiar, inherited, or emotionally reinforced? Pulling one thread often reveals the garment was never quite as sturdy as it first appeared. None of this requires one to immediately accept Catholicism, but intellectual honesty does require engaging it as it actually is, not as it is caricatured. If Catholicism is false, it should be rejected for what it truly teaches, not for positions it explicitly denies. At minimum, charity demands that we criticize the real thing. The invitation I leave you with, then, is simple. Define terms carefully, follow arguments to their conclusions, and resist the temptation to settle for slogans that merely sound right. The truth does not fear scrutiny, and if the Church Christ founded truly is what she claims to be, then clarity, not caricature, will only lead closer to it.